Hey, I'm Chase from Sorcery Contested Realm, and today I'm joined by one of our talented artists, Elwira Pawlikowska. Elvira, thanks so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks so much for the invitation.
Well, one of the things we really are proud of at Sorcery is our artists and the tremendous talents they have. So I want to take some time today to talk with you and get you to share with the community about your artistic journey and all the great work you're doing with Sorcery. Does that sound good?
Yeah, I guess
Oh,
so.
well, let's start at the beginning then. How did you first find your path as an illustrator? And was that something you always envisioned for yourself? Did you always want to be an illustrator?
Do you know what? Not really. I mean, as a child, I simply didn't think about my career path as an adult. So it wasn't like in the case of many other artists who knew from kindergarten what they will be doing. So
Yep.
that was not actually the case. However, I've been always surrounded by books about art and art history and history of architecture because my parents have this large home library with plenty of such books. So that interest came naturally to me, I guess. And yeah, and then around mid high school, I started to think that, it hit me that I will have to find some job one day.
And you chose art. All right.
So, yeah, and I have I still have them actually, a group of friends who are really into role playing games, and there were those, amazing manuals with those cool
Yeah.
illustrations. So they were really into playing, and I was mostly hanging with them and, browsing through those
Ah.
manuals. So that's actually when I thought that that might be something that I would like to do, for a living.
That's amazing. And now you
Yeah.
you touched on architecture, and you've got a
Mhm.
background with architecture here. And your pieces, I think, absolutely amazing. We're going to talk about two today that don't particularly feature architecture, but if you browse your work on our card
Mhm.
library, curiosity.io, you get to see all the sorts of beautiful work. How do you think your love of architecture shapes the way you see the world and how you approach your composition for your fantasy art?
Well, I guess that I'm in my works. I'm more focused on architectural elements than I would otherwise, and I guess I'm also more focused on structure, than on storytelling. We will be
Hmm.
talking about that later, probably. But yeah, that's that's my priority, kind of, and maybe also my works are more technically oriented and maybe sometimes even quite rigid. But
Hmm.
yeah, that's something like that. And precision, I get that I learned that precision during my studies. So yeah.
Okay. So we'll talk about a few pieces here, but when you start a new piece in general, how do you start? Having just talked about precision here,
Mhm.
you get a prompt from Eric. Do you start with like a story in your head? You were talking about structure. Do you think about the mood? Is there like a general approach you have to creating your art?
So on very rare occasions, it's like when I read the description, I instantly know everything. Like I see this whole image in my head, but it happened maybe two times so far in the case of
Oh.
sorcery, like with Lord of the Void and one of the Gothic, yeah, and one of the Gothic pieces as well. So like I
Well, a little
knew
teaser there. Hmm.
at once, but usually it's very systematic. So
Hmm.
first I create some thumbnail sketches and I focus entirely on composition there. So I sometimes even don't know, what gender the protagonist will have at this page, so it's entirely composition. I can show you some thumbnail sketches
Yeah.
later.
All right.
I
Maybe we'll flash
can
them up on the screen if we
do
have them later.
yeah. And then when I go to the second step, which is large, full scale, full detail pencil drawing, that's when I actually start thinking about some background story, maybe, because it helps me, with details.
Yeah.
So yeah, something like that. And when it comes to the mood, it's actually the last one when I start coloring. And quite often I start with one color when I know, some one element, I know which color it should have, and then I think, okay, so nearby it should be this color and this color. So it's like constant problem solving, like puzzles almost,
So it's like you're painting yourself out from a corner. You're like, this piece is this color, so the next piece has to be that. Do you ever get into a spot where you're like, oh no, I've made it, it's gone horribly wrong? Like, it's just.
Sometimes, yes, not very often, but I would say once on 20 illustrations. Yeah, it's like total disaster. So yeah.
Well, so and then for a trading card game like Sorcery, it has its own unique challenges too. What's the best part of creating art that you know is going to be displayed on a card, and then maybe what's like the most challenging part of doing that?
Yes. So what's best? Well, I don't know if it usually in the case of creating TCGs or it's like with sorcery, but this freedom of creativity, that Eric usually gives some brief descriptions, and it's pretty much up to me what I will do with it. Because I usually don't even know what the card function is.
Yeah.
So, and even the titles change with time. So yeah, that's the best part, and then seeing the finished product is actually the best part. So not even creating, not this process, but seeing the product like year or a few years later.
It
That's
does
the
take a
best
little
thing.
while sometimes. Sorcery has a slower cadence.
Yeah. So, and then when it comes to challenges, well, the thing is that my artwork, I'm used to really working with really large, but not really, but quite large paper. So
Yeah.
I can show you. Actually, I have
All right.
something from Gothic with me. Like yeah, this one was.
Oh.
This one was revealed, so I can show
Yeah.
you.
Carrion
It's
beetles.
yeah,
That's like
exactly.
larger
So
than life size, the skeleton. Oh my
yeah,
gosh.
I should actually have with me some card from Sorcery as well, so you could see how small the card is in comparison with the whole piece.
Yeah.
Yeah, that what I struggled at the very beginning.
Mhm.
Because everything has to be visible on this little card, and so yeah, the composition is the key actually, and each card has to be like has to have this clear composition. So you need to know that how to tell one card from the other, so they don't all look the same.
Yeah.
And then the colors, yeah, I would say, um, uh, yeah, you always also have to show, like different, uh, how to put it. like each element has to be clearly visible,
Right.
uh, so yeah,
Well, can we
it's
talk about maybe a specific piece here? And
Mhm.
as a non-artistic person here, I always am, shocked and amazed at the amazing pieces, and I imagine it can be so hard. You all make it look so easy, but let's talk about Dormant Monstrosity and see if I can add this up
Mhm.
here. So
Yeah.
you were asked for this beautiful Gothic piece to create this sleeping creature in the middle of nothing. It has such a sense of stillness and unease. Do you remember what the initial prompt for this was? And then was it daunting at all to have to put something in space with no other context, like frame of reference, or was that your choice?
Oh no! So the description was a Lovecraftian monster, yeah, floating in the space, and it's larger than planets. So that was
Or is that
the
intimidating at all? I feel like for me that sounds challenging, right? Because if you oftentimes think about pieces, they're like in relation to things or have motion or movement, and like sleeping, outer space, like those that sets you up for a lot of challenges, and it came out amazing.
Oh, thank
Or
you.
were you not intimidated at all by that?
First of all, I actually was quite surprised that this will be a card for Gothic set. I still don't know how it relates to the set, but it clearly does. Um, yeah, and I've never painted anything like that. Um, Neither monsters like Lovecraftian monsters nor those space background. So that was well, um, how to put it. Uh, well, painting the background was like a control chaos, because it it's really dark and it's not typical for watercolors. So I had to put plenty of layers of paint and plenty of water, and I don't even remember how I created that. It was just controlling, those.
You repressed those memories. What was fun though? Was fun, or
Yeah.
was it torturous?
No, no, no. But it all happened quite quickly because, I placed the paint and water and it was floating and I was moving the paper, and
Oh, okay. So you're
the
like
floor
physically
was
doing
in
it.
paint and everything. So, yeah, and it turned out pretty good. I mean,
Pretty good. I
surprisingly
mean,
good.
I'm a fan. Let us know in the
Yeah,
comments below what you think. I think this is pretty amazing. But
I
it
was like,
certainly wasn't one of your
wow.
1 in 20s that you were worried about, right? No, it looks like it all came together, and that's a challenge. So you said, you talked earlier about getting into fantasy illustration, those sorts of ideas, looking through old, monster manuals and other fantasy inspiration. And yet you're sort of saying here, what I'm hearing is that maybe monsters aren't necessarily always your go-to thing to want to draw. Do you have a favorite subject to illustrate in the fantasy settings?
Mm, uh, well, yeah, I would say, um, like, um yeah, I mean, architecture mostly, obviously, and settings, yeah, in general, like.
So Eric, when we're reviewing this, in the future, no, just directly in space with no buildings, no references, nothing.
No, but I was so happy
I'm teasing.
with that because sometimes, sometimes the subjects that I expect least end up being most fun to paint.
Yeah.
Actually, like Squirrel from Arthurian Legends. I
Yes.
have expected that, and that's my favorite artwork from that set. So So yeah, sometimes I like surprises, and
Excellent.
yeah, because architecture is my comfort zone. So I
Hmm.
know how to solve those problems, let's say, and here I have to think about it a little
It keeps it
extra.
fresh. That's
Yeah.
amazing. Well, I think we've been recently revealing some cards and talking about different creatures. People have seen Dormant Monstrosity here as a card. And this week we talked about monsters a little bit in our socials. Next week, we're going to be talking more about undead. Let's take a second to reveal one of the art pieces that you've worked on that no one's seen yet. And this is called Undead Ambush.
Yeah.
Let's take a look here. My goodness. Okay. So first off, before we dive into this piece, you had the monster piece, you have the undead piece. Which team are you on? Are you team monsters or are you team undead? Choose carefully.
Oh, definitely undead. I don't
Undead. Oh.
think about it a
What,
moment.
what about undead is so appealing to you or calls to you, speaks to you?
Yeah, so there's something much darker and more mysterious with them, and it's like more emotional and almost philosophical depth in it because they were alive and then they were dead and now they are somewhere in between, and you may ponder, oh, where were they, before, and what happened. So it's, yeah, I guess.
Well, as
And
team monsters who just likes big things that smash stuff, I will. I'll allow it. I'll allow that response. I guess we'll continue the interview, but that's all right. So, what? Let's talk about this piece here. Speaking of the undead and that and those the depth behind it here.
Mhm.
What was the initial direction you received for this illustration, and then how did you interpret it into the scene?
Yeah, so the direction was, I quote, skeletons rising up to attack the protagonist from behind. So that was that. And when I read that, I instantly imagined a graveyard in moonlight. So that was kind of cliche, maybe, but I thought it might be quite picturesque scene
Yeah.
as well. Um, so yeah, I started with composition, which was like foreground, creating a semicircle around the protagonist. So it feels like he's trapped
Yeah.
instantly. And yeah, those white skeletons would also create those lines pointing at the protagonist, who is in the middle ground. So he's not in the foreground, he's farther away. So that's another like dynamic trick, let's say.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, and it really
and
works.
yeah, so that was the beginning, and then I moved to the full scale uh, pencil drawing, and that's when I started to think about the story, who the person might be. And I thought that it might be kind of funny to choose a traveling musician, who is from
Why is
town.
that funny? Poor
Yeah,
musicians.
because it's not like I don't know, some superhero, or something like that.
Fair enough.
He's
Yeah.
just a little reckless dude who maybe heard some stories in the town about horrible things that happen to people who go to the graveyard during the night, and maybe he ignored them, or he thought that might be a good inspiration for his song or something like that. But yeah,
I love it.
he didn't expect to actually meet them.
Now he's in trouble.
Yeah. So that's the background story. And
I love it. Now, for this particular piece, was it smooth sailing, or were there any challenges or surprises that came up as you were working on it?
So the main challenge for night scenes in general is that the light settings, because if it would be believable light setting, you probably wouldn't be able to see anything.
Right.
So it's like finding the right balance between, showing actually clearly showing what's happening, and also creating the illusion of darkness, something like that. So that's difficult. And the other thing was actually I really tried to paint skeletons anatomically correctly. So I was counting all those ribs and vertebra-
A vertebrae?
how
Yeah.
yeah, vertebrae. Yeah, and when I was finishing the artwork, I decided to double check, and obviously the main skeleton had one too many vertebrae in his lower part of the spine. So if you look carefully, I had to fix it. So now his lower part of the spine is kind of super stretched because I had to, fix that.
And different people sometimes are born with different, things. So maybe this is a really abnormal skeleton. They got a slightly longer vertebrae. There's a
Yeah,
diversity in the undead.
yeah.
Was that like a
Maybe
moment of
like
panic though? Just like, oh gosh, no.
uh, yeah. I mean, I was wondering if I would be able to fix it in a kind of believable way, but
You do realize what you've
the
just done
cracks
now,
are
right?
small, so
Is that everyone's going to be looking at all the skeletons in sorcery now, counting all the vertebrae on everybody's pieces now.
I hope not, but
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to come on here and talk with us. And one of the cool things is that these will be out on December 5th in card form that people can have around the world. And I know it's got to be hard. You paint these pieces, and then with one set a year, you're waiting for them to come out. You want to see the community's reactions. What do you hope people maybe feel in the community when they see one of your cards like on the table? So, they get to see your art in person. What are you hoping they feel?
it probably depends on the card. But in general, ideally, it would be great if they could feel like a part of the scene. Like in the case, that's actually a good example, Undead Ambush, because one of the skeletons is kind of looking directly at the viewer as if he was, I don't know, waiting for signal to attack. So something like that, if they could feel part of the scene, or if they could imagine what's going on, beside what's directly seen. So something like that. I know it's not easy in the case of a little card, but that would be anyway perfect.
Well, I think your art is powerful and it evokes a lot of feelings in the people when they do see it. When you told that earlier story about kind of just flipping through a monster manual and like looking at art and being inspired, I think you're adding to that legacy of the power of fantasy, right? When people are flipping through their sorcery cards and they're seeing these things, it is evocative. It takes them to imaginative worlds. So not only what you're helping make the community feel, but I hope you get a chance to feel the love from the community for your work as well. And folks, if you're watching this, leave a note down in the comments below. And Elwira, when we post this, make sure you come back and scroll through the comments so you can see just how powerful your work is and how it is impacting the community. And on that note, I guess maybe what's sort of next for you? Are you working on other side projects on your own personal time? And then any dreams of themes or subjects you'd love to paint in the future?
So I'm actually constantly working on my personal project. It started a few years ago, and I don't know when it will be finished, but it's either a book or an online classes about designing fantasy architecture, so something like that. But yeah, we will see when it will be finished.
That sounds
It's
amazing.
actually closer to the end than to the beginning, so
That's a good place to be.
yeah, but besides that, I sometimes work on other projects, like recently on play mats for, sorcery tournaments in some places. So something like that. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, thank you to everyone for tuning in, and thank you so much for being so generous with your time. If people want to find out more about Elwira, you can, of course, go to sorcerytcg.com/art, and we do have our artist profiles. And on each artist profile, there is a link that will take you to their bio, or their socials, or where you can find more about them as well. Where can people connect with you directly as well? Is there a best place that people should go to interact with you? Maybe Instagram or...
Yeah, I would say Instagram would be the best place. So yeah, that's
Fantastic. And we'll put a
also
link to that.
Facebook. But
And Facebook.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Elwira. And until next time, folks, best of luck contesting the realm.
I just don't.
Can this be part of it? Take two. what
I just wanted to say thanks, everybody.
Oh no, you're gonna make me cry though. I laugh. I have a problem with laughing a little easily. Yeah.
I have to calm down.
My face is gonna be red. They're gonna be like, "Why did your skin color turn red for the last bit?" Okay.